would Bryson playing on the PGA Tour all year long potentially have slowed down Scottie's run? Fore-play, presented by Barstool Sports. This is our last show of the week. It is Thursday. It's Rocket Mortgage time. One of the all-time stories in golf this week is this guy, Nick Bienz, who qualified for the Rocket Mortgage this week, pounded 3 beers, thought he was in. We're going to get into that story. Shout out to Ryan French, Monday Q, who was all over that. He basically has built his entire career for that moment, and he just pounced. He was all over it. So we're going to get into that. We also got a tease. We've got Dana Dahlquist on this show, who is Bryson's swing coach. Incredibly technical when it comes to the game. I was reading a good amount before we talk about this with him, but you know, they've got what is the box thing? The sports box combined with foresight that literally basically it produces like a 3D version of your body and the biomechanics during your swing, and then attaches and compares and analyzes all of that with what a foresight, does, which is tells you all of the exact results of the golf ball and what the golf ball did, and ties the two together to be like, if your body is moving this way, that's why it's producing that. So in order to fix the ball doing this, we need to do this with the body, and bringing all of that with like AI. And this is the fucking swing coach that's behind that with Bryson. He's great. He called in from the driving range. He was in a golf cart at the driving range. He works at a public course. Like 99% of the stuff that he does is just with weekend golfers, normal golfers, public golfers, whatever you want to say. And then he's got a pupil that is the U.S. Open champion as of a couple weeks ago in one of the more exciting majors in history. So great talking to him. Golf nerdy type stuff for sure. That's what you're going to get. It's Bryson's swing coach, but also a lot of good insight into kind of mindset stuff even, and the approach and the belief and, the shot on the 72nd hole and Bryson's driving and his driver head having to be switched out, all kinds of good stuff in there. So that's the second half of the show. We got myself and Dan. We got a lot of golf stuff to talk about. I've got this, the Dutch golfers being denied.
Dude,
Olympic
I couldn't
spot.
believe that.
There's
I could
some
not
crazy
believe
stuff
that.
to talk about. There's some crazy stuff to talk about.
So for people who don't know, so the Olympics and we've talked about Olympic qualification methods in the context of Bryson before, because he didn't make it. Wyndham Clark made it, despite Wyndham Clark playing really like doo-doo most of the summer. Bryson's playing great. It's because it's tied to this list, this Olympic points list. It's like a 2-year rolling thing, and it's tied.
And that's from the IOC? That's from the IOC? Or is it
I'm
from
not sure
golf?
who makes the list. Yeah, I think it's like the Olympic Golf Committee, whatever. But it's tied pretty much directly to the world ranking. So the rules are, if you're in the top 15, you're in no matter what, unless your country has more than 4 guys in the top 15. That only applies to the U.S. So the U.S. has like 7 guys in the top 15. Only the top 4 make it. Every other country basically
we lost the Ryder Cup, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, that's right. Every other country has 2 guys basically going in, or 1, depending on how it worked out. So the Dutch team, two men and 2 women qualified for the Olympics. Joost Luiten, Darius Van Driel, Anne Van Dam, who people might know because she has like the most beautiful golf swing in the history of the world. And then this girl, Davy Weber. I don't know how it's pronounced, the last name. The Dutch Olympic Committee just said, nope, you guys aren't good enough to represent the Netherlands in golf, which I thought, that can't possibly be true. Surely there's some sort of backstory here. Maybe these people aren't Dutch, or maybe they pissed somebody off. Nope. The Dutch Olympic Committee basically decided that 3 out of the 4 people, despite them qualifying, are just not good enough to represent the Netherlands in golf in the Olympics, which is weird on a couple levels. Number one, the Netherlands is like one of the richest countries in the world. So like, I don't really understand the downside.
Isn't Netherlands too one of them like happier countries in the world? Isn't that? I think they're always like top 5 in like happiest population.
Happy and wealthy and good looking and tall. It's a good country. It's a good thing they've got going over there. So I don't understand what the downside is. If it's just about like, is it a money thing? Is money so tight that they can't send these Olympic athletes to represent them? And then number 2, it's not like the Netherlands has this like proud golf history where, they can't handle the embarrassment of these. No Dutch man or woman has ever won a major championship ever. And the third thing is, Joost Luiten, the guy who the higher ranked of the 2 men who qualified, He's number 148 in the world right now, and I understand the world rankings are not great. But last Olympics, literally last Olympics, the silver medalist was Rory Sabatini. He was 161 in the world, and the bronze medalist was C.T. Pan, who was 181st in the world. It makes zero sense.
In the world of golf, that is crazy because anybody could win any week. I did love, the more I dug into this, I sort of loved the ruthlessness and the bluntness of this from the Netherlands.
So you're kind of messaging.
Dude, one of their criteria, it says, per the Netherlands Olympic Committee / Dutch Sports Federation, it has set internal standards for all sports to meet a, quote, realistic chance, unquote, of a place in the top 8 in the Olympics. And so their internal system looked at these 3 out of these 4 and determined that the 3 of them have absolutely zero realistic chance of finishing inside the top 8 at the Olympics. So they said, we're not dragging your asses over to Paris if you're not going to finish inside the top 8.
It's like a 30-minute flight.
Have a chance. We're not hooking you up with all the gear. We're not paying for your hotel rooms. We're not marching you out there into the stadium with the torch. You can sit your ass at home until you prove you can finish inside the top 8. Absolutely preposterous move by them. It says the additional requirements have been in place since golf returned to Rio in 2016. Women must be among the top 24 in the Olympic golf rankings. The men must be inside the top 27. The Olympics truly are, in a lot of ways, one of the few things where a participation medal is kind of the goal. Like, obviously there's certain elite athletes in certain sports where the Olympics and you're a threat and you're there to win gold and that's it. But the vast majority, it's insanely cool to be able to say for the rest of your life that you were an Olympian. You represented your country in this global festival celebrating sport and athleticism and competition. And you don't actually get a participation medal, but like that's the one instance where you get
the tattoo.
You get to flaunt that. Yeah, get your fucking tattoo. Shout out to Ricky. And you get to flaunt your participation medal for the rest of your life. I was an Olympian. That's sick. You got all these photos you're able to frame around your home for the rest of your life of you walking in. You did the whole deal, the opening ceremony. You were there. It's great. You got all the gear. Probably have a sick golf bag from the Netherlands. You can do all kinds of cool stuff. And they're getting denied of that, which sucks. But again, a part of me, like I would love to hear the rebuttal from this committee that would look at this and be like, no, we're not bringing you over there. You guys just aren't good enough. Sucks for them, preposterous, but part of me kind of laughed when I read that.
Of course you did. That doesn't surprise me.
No realistic chance of a top 8.
And apparently the Netherlands Golf Federation, which is, I guess, like the USGA of the Netherlands, they made like a presentation being like, well, it's not really similar to track and field where like someone can just run faster than the other person and then they're just going to beat them every time and there's no chance. Like golf is, there's this guy Hugh Sloyton's won 6 times on the European Tour. He's made the cut in 12 of the 21 majors that he's played in. The other guy won a DP World Tour event 4 months ago. It's not like they're 16-year-olds. You know what I mean?
No, it ain't swimming where it's like, no, the fastest swimmers are going to just win gold, silver, and bronze. Like this is golf. Anyone, like once you're at a certain level, I get it's more likely, but anyone could finish. I think they showed like from the women's KPMG PGA last week, one of the girls ranked like 260th in the world and finished like 5th or something like that. And so clearly you can be a professional golfer. I mean, our boy Alistair Doherty showed up to his second PGA Tour event in his life and finished second, beat all kinds of PGA Tour, players, winners, whatever. So it is, it's a preposterous move by the Dutch. We had to talk about that story. And like I said, part of me kind of loves it. Good for them. I'm actually going to the Netherlands next weekend. I've never been to the Netherlands.
Really? For what?
I'm going to Amsterdam for a Taylor Swift concert with our friend Josh Isner.
Yep. Are you kidding
like
me?
There's got to be a lady involved in this trip.
I told you about this last year, Bush. It's one of those things that like future rigs, agreed to and knew about. And now it's all of a sudden here. But like a year ago, if folks recall, I went to the Eras Tour show in Pittsburgh with Josh, who's a huge Swiftie. Pilar from our merchandise team, she was there with one of her friends. And we had a great time. She made like Taylor Swift, friendship bracelets for all of us with your song on it and the whole deal. We had a great time. Well, Josh is a massive Swiftie as well. Massive. He's been to a bunch of shows as of last year, and he hit me up around this time last year, maybe a little later, and was like, "Hey, there's a show. I think it's July 6th, Saturday, in Amsterdam. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I want to go. Sure." Again, not thinking too much of it. We went back and forth about it over the last year, here and there. Well, now all of a sudden it's here, and so next weekend we are flying to Amsterdam. And we're going to hang for a couple days. We're going to the Taylor Swift show on Saturday night. I think we're doing like a canal cruise. And then Sunday, because we'll pick up a bunch of time, we're flying back. I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going to fly back to Phoenix, and I'll be ready for the podcast the Monday after 4th of July week.
Are you guys flying Air Isner?
Yep. And we've got a hell of a crew. I'm not going to reveal the crew in case something falls through. Or, it's almost like you don't want to reveal a guest before you get the guest in case, whatever, who knows. But afterwards, and I imagine some of the pictures come out, it's just quite the hell of a crew that we've got going over there. So I will report back on my findings. I'm going to ask people about this incredibly strict criteria they've got for their golfers. I imagine that's top of mind over there in the Netherlands right now. But I'm going to be there for the first time. I'm very excited.
Yeah, well, the Netherlands, the sport they are really proud of, soccer, they finished third in their group. They're going to advance as a lucky loser, but they finished third in their group in the Euros.
What's a lucky loser?
So, yeah. Pretty soccer thing to have. So basically, there's Rick's is like, what are you talking about?
The fuck is that?
So
I don't see him like denying that now.
I'm trying to do the math. So there's 4. So the top 2 teams in the World Cup, just the top 2 teams from the group advance. It's clean because there's 8 groups, and so the top 2 teams advance round of 16. There's not 8 groups. I don't know how many groups there are in the Euros. So the top 2 from every group advance, and then 4 out of the top 4, there's 6 top 4 third place finishers out of 6 third place finishers advance as well. So really only 8 teams get knocked. There's 24 teams and only 8 teams get knocked out. So the Netherlands finished third in their group, but they're going to advance. But yeah, so I made a video yesterday about this, and some guy responded, a Dutch guy, and he said, "I'm Dutch. You got to do I need some investigative reporting over there." He said, "I'm Dutch. Played for the national water polo 10 plus years. All I can say is fuck the Dutch Olympic Committee. They have never supported any sports that didn't have a reasonable chance at a medal. There's a whole can of worms here I don't want to open, but I really appreciate the support." So you gotta figure out what's going on over there.
Telling you, the more and more I learn about this committee, I love them. They only accept greatness, and they won't even give you a chance if they don't think you are even close to being able to win a medal, which again, I kind of respect. Yeah, soccer is. I saw that the Casey Smith and that crew, they were doing, with the College World Series, they were doing like how many College World Series, how many college basketball national titles would you give up for one college football national title? And, they were kind of going through obviously like a trillion World Series, which I think is about right. Like you can't even win enough to equal one. Like you'd rather have one football national championship than have won every college baseball World Series in history. And as a hockey guy, you'd probably say the same thing about hockey. And then basketball, it's not as many. March Madness is a big fucking deal. There's like 3 or 5 or so, but like football is so big that I wonder if the Netherlands, International Olympic Committee, whatever, would they give up every medal they've ever earned in history for the Netherlands to win the World Cup?
Yes, I think they would. Yeah, I think they would. I think a lot of these European countries, it's like it's soccer and then it's everything else.
This episode is brought to you by Chevy. With golf season in full swing, Chevy wants to help you make the most of every drive. The all-electric Blazer EV's bold design and dynamic performance make it the perfect electric vehicle to get you to the course in style and comfort. I'm telling you, I do this during every ad read. You go to Chevy.com/Blazer EV, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. They did a fantastic job. Even if for some reason you're not convinced that they did the best job ever with the actual Blazer EV, which they did. Motor Trend believes that they did. They said it's the best SUV of 2024. They did a fantastic job with this link, because when you go to this website, which again, that's Chevy.com/Blazer EV, and you look at these things, this vehicle looks fantastic. It's just an excellent, excellent choice. The bow tie, Chevy. Dan loves it.
I love it. I love Chevy. It's an American institution. It's the 4th of July. I feel like, beers, baseball, Chevy like a rock.
USA. That's just USA right there. Blazer EV helps you get the distance that you're looking for with an available EPA estimated 324 miles of range on a full charge, 17.7-inch standard diagonal display screen. Head over to Chevy.com/Blazer EV. Check out lease offers and amazing deals. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
Speaking of Taylor Swift, Bush, I watched the first episode of Taylor versus Scooter last night on Max. Have you seen that?
Is it good? I saw it. I haven't seen it yet, but I saw it came
So
out.
it's interesting. It's interesting the way that they structure it. So it's just 2 episodes. One of them is Taylor's version, and then one of them is Scooter's version. And so I only watched the Taylor's version one. But it kind of seems to me that her argument is just, I want these.
Well, he's a scumbag.
But
he just took them.
I listen. Is the crux of her argument, I want these?
I deserve these.
Why? She sold them initially.
I mean, I'm not going to go into the whole thing about it. I got to watch more.
You're going to be on Scooter's side if I know you.
Yeah, Rick.
Well, look,
Scooter's side.
But I'll say Scooter, whether it's this particular instance or not, Scooter's done a lot of stuff that's shitty. That's like been bad. So on this particular instance, I'm not. If I were like a lawyer and I'm picking apart piece by piece, I have no idea the details either. But I do understand. We had a very funny moment when we filmed the video with Jake Owen, Morgan Wallen, Darius Rucker, and Hardy, where we're like 4 or 5 holes in, everybody's drinking. And Jake Owen was like, how come we don't have any music going? We got to play some music. And we were like, yeah, we can't have music playing when we film videos because of all the rights. And he's like, no, like we'll put on our music playlist. Like, we were like, yeah, you don't like own your music. And he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? We were like, yeah, no, like if we play that music and this is a commercial enterprise, we're making money off of these videos and someone else owns the music, they could sue us because you can't, profit off of someone else's work that they own. And it took them a second, but also ultimately we got to the conclusion of like, yeah, no, you don't own your music. Someone owns your music. You sold the music. They pay you. That's how you got your career started, whatever the intricacies of it are. I don't know. I don't have any idea on the details of the Taylor Swift, Scooter Braun stuff. I know that, what was it, Miss Americano or whatever? Is that the documentary on Netflix? It's Taylor Swift, Bush?
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal documentary. I mean, phenomenal. And probably made me a Swiftie more than anything else. Just like how, there's all kinds of talk about industry plants when it comes to music and how really like a lot of the stars kind of curtail their music to what, almost like they're just TikTokers. Like they're just curtailing it to like whatever's going to be the most popular and make them a huge star. Whereas you got Taylor Swift out there writing her own music. She's out there performing left and right. I'm a huge fan of her overall. I don't know the songs inside out, not all of them. Some you do, some you don't. But that documentary made me a huge fan. I will say, if it does come out that like you sold it, you made the agreement, and then you go back on your agreement, I don't care who you are, what situation you are, I'm going to side on like the person who is getting screwed in that deal. But I believe it's way more complicated than that, and that people that like Dave, for example, Dave's a pretty rational person. He like looks at things pretty rational for the most part, unless it deals with like New England athletics. But I know he's been like anti-Scooter for a long time. And I would guess that he looked at a lot of the facts and was like, no, Taylor Swift's got screwed. So I doubt that I'm going to be on that side.
Yeah, I mean, she became like Michael Jackson. And so, a reasonable person probably would have been like, okay, we can figure something out here. And he really wanted to like hold the letter of the law, which was not cool. But I just wanted to fire up Bush a little bit.
Yeah, like rather than, no, I get that. He seemed like that kind of guy where it's like, no, I thought we were like, you were my manager. You kind of like helped make my career. We're in this together. Is this like a partnership or is this like a legal contract? Is essentially, I feel like where a lot of these things go, which gets ridiculous, where it's like most people have a human connection to any deal that you do. And you're not going to hold someone to the letter of the law that is like not only your associate and client, but like a friend.
But also Bush, he never managed it. He just bought the record label, right?
Yeah, he didn't originally have it. He bought basically his company bought who had all of her previous albums. So he basically got it through the purchase.
So she sold it to this guy, Scott, who they signed her to a 6, whatever. We don't need to get into this. Anyways,
it's like Big Machine Records had it, and then they sold it to Scooter Braun.
This guy discovered her or signed her to her first deal, signed her to a 6-album deal, which made my mouth like, that is so many albums over like 13 years, I think it is. and then he sold. So he owned the Masters, and then he sold his company to Scooter Braun, who was like, according to Taylor, like the last person she would ever want to have this because of the Kanye stuff. He's like Kanye's
because he signed with Kanye right after Famous.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, okay. I'm looking at it now. Essentially, yeah, that's what happened. She signed the deal. Someone else owned it. Those people then sold it to Scooter, which pissed her off because she's not a Scooter fan, and that kind of started the whole thing.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, that's really where it is. It's like, okay, that guy shouldn't have sold it to Scooter.
You know, yeah, but also at that point, like once it's always tough. It's almost like the founder of a company, you know, when they get to the point where they like sold out, they made their money, and then they're not upset when that company gets resold or trims or goes in a different direction. And it's like, well, you sold out, you know, you don't have any say. We get that this is your company. So I understand that, but it looks like she was publicly clearly in the process of trying to buy back all of her
she
music
wanted
when
to
that
buy
kind
it,
of happened, right?
Yeah, she wanted to buy it, which, okay, I take back what I said earlier.
I'm excited to watch that. That's on Max. Is the whole thing on Max, or is it just they release in one episode at a time?
No, both of them are there. I'm gonna watch the second one tonight.
Two-parter.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Swifty. I'm gonna go see her, and hopefully, if everything goes properly, into the Netherlands next week. And then I'm actually in the process of booking a last-second trip to Wisconsin for this weekend.
Where are you going?
Well, I was gonna go to New York because I've got to get to the Boston area on July 4th, 5th, so that I could catch this airplane and go to Netherlands. And I wasn't quite sure. I was going to go to New York and kind of hang out, maybe play a little bit of golf, and that kind of fell through. So then I was going back and forth with some of my Boston buddies, and they were like, yeah, we can get away for a weekend. So kind of looked at a couple different places, and I saw that obviously the Classics in Lac La Belle, that's going on while we're recording this Wednesday, which is a fantastic spot. If people have never been there, it's like 20 minutes from Erin Hills, Lac La Belle. I was there a few years ago. JJ Watt actually set us up there, of all people. He knows the family, the owners that kind of run that whole place, and he had hit me up relentlessly, being like, hey, I know you love Erin Hills. I know you love Sand Valley. I know you've done Whistling Straits. Next time you're in Wisconsin playing golf, you got to go to my place. And he had called in, set the whole thing up. He paid for our tee times. He paid for our lunch. He wasn't even there. And me and a couple of buddies played this Lac La Belle track, and it's fantastic. They just redid the whole thing. They've got a big putting green where they give you like old hickory putters and turn the lights on, and you could putt all night. And anyways, this is the second straight year that we're hosting the Classic there. Trent's out there right now representing the Midwest. I saw Francis is there, Hannah Cook's there. So they got quite the crew. But I was like, oh, man, Wisconsin. I don't have really any plans to go to Wisconsin this year. I try to get there every year to play golf. So I hit up a few people out there, and our boy Baker from Carter from Sand Valley. We're like, I think we can squeeze you guys in for a few days. So I think I'm doing like a little Sand Valley, maybe play Erin Hills a couple days, because we're like next week, our office is closed. We've kind of already going to have our podcast done. And I think I'm just going to kind of tour through Wisconsin for a few days and play a little bit of golf in Wisco. So I've got a hell of a week coming up. It's also 110 degrees in Arizona. And I know we say it's a dry heat, but we've been getting these monsoons have all of a sudden started. So I looked, it was like 46% humidity today and 110 degrees out. You can't even fuck go outside right now.
Yeah, no, Wisconsin in the summers is tough to beat. I was blown away by Erin Hills when we were there last year. It was just an incredibly beautiful place.
Yeah, my boy Brandon Carter's awesome at Sand Valley. I'm excited to see him. Steve, our boy Steve Pease from Erin Hills, who took care of us there. He was supposed to play in the Barstool Classic today. He got sick, so unfortunately he couldn't play, but hopefully see him around. We love Wisconsin, dude. Wisconsin's fucking great. People are so nice. The terrain is gorgeous. They're always in such good shape because all winter long they got nothing, not even close. All that snow melts. It's all like rich soil and grass, and it's just in great shape. So I think I'm gonna do a little tour of Wisconsin this weekend. I'm very excited. Get ready, everyone, for the season, the summer season. It's hot. It's sunny out with the official sunglass brand of Barstool Sports. Shady Rays, our friends, have you covered with their newest and boldest premium polarized shades. They're kicking off their most anticipated release of 2024 with a limited debut of their Rival collection. This is a new single lens style in Barstool Blue with a premium stool and stars lens etch, which is awesome. I rock these in pretty much every video. I love wearing sunglasses. Key on the course, I hate squinting. My face starts to hurt your eyes start to hurt. Too much sun exposure. We kind of talk about that on this show a little bit later. Shady Rays, that's what I rock. They got a bunch of cool, stylish pairs. And they've also got an incredible situation when it comes to their warranty, their replacement. If you don't love your shades, you can exchange for a new pair. You can return them worry-free within 30 days. So there's no risk with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. Head to shadyrays.com. Use the code 4. We're giving you 35% off polarized sunglasses. That's right, 35% off. That's a fantastic deal. Head to shadyrays.com. Use the code 4. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. 35% off. Code 4 at shadyrays.com. This Golf Galaxy guy, Nick Bienz, absolute legend. So tried to play professional golf, has never played in a PGA Tour sanctioned event in his career. He works at Golf Galaxy. He really liked his chances up at the Monday Q at the course and the environment for the Rocket Mortgage this week. So he went up there. I believe he lives in like Jacksonville or something now. He went up there to play, shoots 7 under 65. At the time that he finishes his round, it's looking like that's going to just get through and qualify for the tournament clean. So he's sitting in the bar or on the outside patio having a couple beers because it looks like he's good. He's nervous as hell. He's been shaky. He said he doesn't even remember his last couple putts. And Monday Q, Ryan French finds him, Googles him. I heard the story at PGA Tour Radio. He was like, it's very rare that someone's at the top of a Monday Q list, and I don't know who they are. He's like, this is my job. My whole name is Monday Q. I'm looking. I'm like, who the hell's this Bienz guy? He's like, I Google him. Looks like the pictures match up with this guy sitting in the bar. I go talk with him, interview him. Just a total legend who works at Golf Galaxy is out there. Turns out 3 people, I think, in like the last group or 2 come in with 65s as well. So they end up having a playoff. It goes 8 holes because I think it was 4 guys for 3 spots. Ends up going 8 holes. This guy gets through, and it's everywhere. It's on the New York Post. I saw all the golf accounts picked it up. BarstoolSports.com picked it up. But all-time story to follow this week. Kiz responded and quote tweeted him and was like, pair me with this guy, PGA Tour. So he has 3 beers in between. And, he's asking him, I think like French, he's kind of asking him about like, oh, you're having beers. What if it goes to playoff? I mean, he's like, I can have 3 beers. 3 beers is like perfect. Well, then it goes to a playoff. He goes out, plays great after having 3 beers, gets through, said he's calling into work because the next morning he's supposed to work at like 7:30 in the morning. He's like, that's obviously not going to work. So phenomenal story with this guy.
Is alcohol, because Joel Damon, remember in Netflix, they showed that he qualified for the US Open after having a couple White Claws. Is alcohol a performance enhancer when it comes to like, I'm not saying
no.
For Scottie Scheffler, it's not a performance enhancer, but for a guy who is going to be so fucking nervous, he's never been anywhere close to this stage before. It's just a question.
I kind of wondered that as well. Like, are you allowed to drink during a tournament? Like, could you bring a bunch of booze in your bag and just booze during a golf tournament?
I don't know what the rule is. I really don't. I mean, I guarantee there have been guys, I mean, before this era of fitness and this, that, and the other, I'm sure in the 80s there were guys who were drinking like all the time, Like, I mean,
and I know like John Daly comes to mind, right? People, but I don't think that like, I don't know for sure if he's on record as being like in the middle of PGA Tour events, I was housing drinks. He rips darts. He obviously has a bunch of like Cokes, Diet Cokes, whatever he's drinking.
Wilcox was doing heroin. So it's like,
I would imagine that's not legal, right?
Definitely not legal. I'm going to look it up if alcohol is legal on the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour allows moderate consumption of alcohol after the rounds have concluded. I'm going to look this up for a second. I don't think it's allowed while you're
after
playing.
The rounds have concluded. No shit. What are you going to tell somebody that can't go drink?
The policy reads that any member found to be consuming an alcoholic beverage during any practice round or tournament round, whether a pro-am round or a tournament competition round, on the practice tee or putting green, will be penalized. But that doesn't say anything about the golf.
See, is that like a fine? Is that like a 2-stroke penalty? I wonder what that is.
I don't know if that means on the golf course. I'm trying to figure this out.
Because I did think about that too. I was like, that brings in a little bit of an interesting question of like, does he have a slightly unfair advantage because he has gotten a little bit tipsy, literally taken the nerve off in between, the finish and the playoff? Like, I love it. That's what I would do. I've done it before in the first time I ever played in an official like tournament with one of my buddies, and we were an absolute disaster after like the first hole. I topped my tee shot. He made like a bogey, and we were like, "Holy shit, we have to rip a shot." We took a shot, and then we played much better after that. But I even thought in real time, I was like, "This feels like cheating. This is making everything way easier."
Yeah, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to do it, but that's what it seems. But John Daly admitted to downing 5 beers during one LA Open, and Chichi Rodriguez saw off a bottle of rum prior to his Masters debut and recorded, quotes, "the happiest 83 of my life."
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, no, it brings in an interesting question. I'm not sure where this kid lives exactly. I saw a post because I was looking through his Twitter. 2019, he tweeted that he's all excited to be moved down into Jacksonville. That's obviously 5 years ago, so I have no idea where he lives now. But point is, he's playing as the time of this tournament, or at the time that this show comes out, he's about to tee it up in the in his first ever PGA Tour event. So good luck to him. Hope he plays fantastic. A question that I saw you do a video about, Dan, that actually is incredibly relevant because of our boy Dana coming on and talking all about Bryson, is would Bryson playing on the PGA Tour all year long potentially have slowed down Scottie's run? He's famously cleaned up on the elevated events. He's got 6 wins already, which I saw the comparisons to Tiger's 2000 year. He's ahead of Tiger's pace. Tiger, of course, won 3 majors that year, one of them by 15 shots, one of them by 8 shots at 2 of the most iconic courses in the world, which Scottie has not done. He's won 1 major and 1 players. But in terms of his scoring average, the amount of wins that he's got, there's a couple others on there. Oh, missed cuts, which is 0, and like top 10s or something, which is like all of them. He's actually ahead of Tiger on that pace this year. Would Bryson, if he was playing on the PGA Tour all year, have like slowed down Scottie's complete dominance of the year?
Did you notice something? I don't want to spoil, but did you notice something that Dana said? I don't know if it's Dana or Dana, by the way, but did you notice anything that he said, like he's going to prioritize the bigger events, which I thought was interesting.
That's a little bit of the Brooks approach. And
he hasn't, I don't think he's won on LIV this year.
To be frank, too, like that almost strikes me as like they don't treat the LIV events like they're that big of a deal.
That's kind of what I was getting. Like,
which I would say, like, I wouldn't, can you blame them? Like it does, you know, like there's not, I get that you're playing for a lot of money and it's cool, but he's out there hyping up I guess he was hyping up the crowd at the US Open too. But I agree with you. He almost came off in a little teaser for the interview. Like he was saying, we use the LIV events almost to experiment so that we're ready for the big events.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, one of the underrated things about Tiger, and I think Scottie has this too, is, you know, there was all this talk about Tiger and peaking for the majors, but he brought that same intensity to pretty much every single tournament that he played. You know, he won a lot. I mean, he's won 15 majors. That means he's won, you know, 67 non-majors, right? So it's not like he was on the Brooks Koepka diet. And I think Scottie has the same thing where it's not so much bringing the intensity every time, but Scottie's just, you know, he's so balanced with his life, you know, and I get the sense that Bryson doesn't have that same balance, which is not a good thing or a bad thing, right? Like Scottie's got a kid and he's married. Bryson is single and is not married. And Scottie is not super technical and, you know, he changed putters to the Spider X, and the QI10 this year, which has made all the difference. But, you know, he's not trying out a crank driver with bull. I just think he's got, everything is sort of just like the same thing week to week. And that's why he's crushed it week to week on the PGA Tour. You know, he's won 5 of the 8 signature events. He obviously likes the way they set up courses. I think he's going to be more of those guys who like have to build up because he puts so much energy into these big events. And it gets to an interesting question. You know, I think the British Open is super important for how we remember Scottie's year, right? Like if he wins the British Open, it's one of the greatest years in golf history. 2 majors, 7 wins, all these signature events. If he finishes like 20th, and in this era when because the players are split, you know, the majors seem to matter more than ever. I wonder if those wins will sort of fade away. If it will be almost like a Jason Day 2015 situation where like win a lot of tournaments, but you won 1 major and, you know, it just didn't quite register.
Look, he clearly will vault into one of the great seasons in golf history if he wins the British Open. But even if he doesn't, the fact that he got a major is enormous, because if he had 15 wins, even if it's a Players and no major championships, then you could kind of make that argument. But if he doesn't win another event all year, it's going to go down as a phenomenal top 10, 15, I don't know all the seasons, but season in golf history, especially because you have to consider, and the parity's not as much now on a week-to-week basis because the tours are split, but how much people talk about all the nutrition, all the fitness, all of the equipment has led to so much parity that it's nearly impossible for someone to dominate. Yet here is a guy who is dominating. And he's not just dominating the tour setups. He did win at the Masters. He won the Players Championship, which really is like kind of its own thing. And the other events that he's won are massive fucking events. Like winning at Muirfield and Jack's tournament is huge. And, a couple of these elevated events are, like Bay Hill is, he's got Arnold Palmer, he's got Jack Nicklaus's events. Like these are big time events that were on Tiger's schedule that Tiger played. Tiger didn't play that often when he was even in his heyday. He played 12, 15 times a year. And so like when he did show up, it was like he was treating everything like a major championship. And Scottie has won a bunch of those huge events. So I think it's almost impossible to fathom he's not going to win another time this year. But even if he doesn't win the British, you got to think he'll win one or two other events. That's going to put him at 7 or 8 wins, a Masters, a Players Championship, Jack's tournament, Arnie's tournament, the record in terms of money earned. Like he's pretty much locked up one of the top career years in history.
So there's 2 Player of the Year awards. I think I vote for one of them. I can't remember.
Nice.
I don't pay for the Golf Writers Association of America. I had a little bit of a spat with the guy who runs it.
Did you have a falling out?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, I wrote the best article I've ever written in my life about Morgan Hoffman. And when I was at Golf Digest, there was like an office manager who would handle all of the submissions for the writing contest. And so like we didn't have to do it. It was like, okay, they're going to submit, and the editors would decide like, we're going to submit Dan in this category, that category. We're not going to submit him in this category.
Okay.
When I went to Barstool, that obviously wasn't happening anymore.
We don't have one of those?
What'd you say?
We don't have one of those?
No, we don't have a Golf Writers Association of America committee.
Nate Dogg's not submitting those for you?
No.
Okay.
And so I missed it by like a day. I missed the deadline. And then I was like, oh my God, I wrote this guy this whole email being like, hey, I'm at Barstool now. I didn't really know what was going on, blah, blah, blah. And the guy responds to me and goes, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen, blah, 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 blah. And he signs the email, Contest Czar. And I was like,
Jesus.
Fuck this guy. I was like, I'm not doing,
so
I don't pay anymore. Anyways, so there's two awards. There's the PGA Tour Player of the Year award, which is voted on by the players, by the peers. We know who's going to win that one.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the GWAA or whatever it is, the PGA of America. I don't know what it's called, but there's a Player of the Year award that is not tied to the PGA Tour. And it's just Golf Player of the Year. So theoretically, this was like back in the 90s. If, Nick Faldo did a million things in Europe, he could win the award without playing on the PGA Tour. Let's say Bryson wins the Open and Scottie finishes 3rd. Who wins that award? Because Bryson will have two majors and have beaten Scottie in 3 of the 4. I also thought it was super interesting how Dana talked about I'm not letting Bryson crown Scottie Scheffler. Thought that was very interesting also.
It was extremely interesting, but it was also expected to, like, you have to say that. You cannot, and I'm almost surprised when I watch some of these interviews with some of the other guys, when they do kind of like concede that Scottie is just playing way better, because it's almost he is. Like all the stats and all the results, he clearly is. But Bryson does have a little bit of an argument because he's like, yeah, we've only played together 3 times and I've beaten the guy 2 out of the 3 times.
So if he wins, who would you vote for?
It depends. Like if Scottie then goes on and wins like everything going home, I don't know how you don't pick him. I really don't. But you would be able to have a great argument for Bryson. You'd be able to say like, dude, these guys only got to play against each other 4 times. But then I guess the counter argument to that would be like, well, Bryson, like you're not the player of the year. You were the player of the majors, but like you also play on a tour throughout the entire year and you weren't dominant there. You had no wins there, very few wins there, depending on how he does the rest of the year. So I still think Scottie having won one of the majors, having won the Players Championship, the tour truly is like deeper and tougher and more historic and more prestige. I would still give it to Scottie.
Yeah, it's. I'm rooting for the two of them because I think it's. I think it would be really really cool if the year ended that way, you know, because we've in the beginning it looked like was it like going to be Wyndham Clark who challenges Scottie and is sort of that guy, you know, he was there at Bay Hill and the Players, and then he missed like every cut in every important tournament the rest of the year, and he's fallen out. And you know, Xander's been up there pretty much every year, but Xander's not the personality that Bryson is. Like, you know, he finishes top 20 in every single tournament, but half of them you don't really even notice because he's just kind of a quiet kid, which is fine. That's his personality. I think it would be really special if the two of them found a way to duke it out over a turn.
Truly tequila sodas, baby. We got the Barstool Classics in full swing. Trent Ryan was in Wisconsin. We've been all over the West Coast. We've been everywhere this year so far in the Barstool Classic. We still got a bunch of stops to go. And the Truly tequila sodas have been everywhere with us, and people are loving them. They got 4. That is 4 refreshing flavors. Lime, pineapple, guava, grapefruit, watermelon. All those flavors have 5% ABV and just 100 calories. So you could take a tequila-cation with the new Truly tequila soda today. You love these too, Dan.
Yeah, tequila for me has become sort of the standard, you know, in the last couple of years. So having a canned beverage that's as tasty, as light as the Truly tequila sodas, it's been a game changer on the golf course. There's just something about it. I love it. It's perfect for summer.
Tequila's in. It's just been in for a few years. It's all over the place, especially me. I live in Arizona, down here in the Southwest. Tequila's a big deal. And Truly has just figured it out. They are refreshing. They are delicious. They're light with the 100 calories. So Truly tequila soda. Keep it light. Hard seltzer beverage company, Boston, Massachusetts. Please drink responsibly and try those tequila sodas. They're delicious. Do we think Rory's going to emerge before Scotland at all? Before the, like, in an interview, right? Doesn't he like once a year he sits down with like the Guardian of Scotland or something and does like a long interview? You think he's going to emerge with one of those before we get to the Genesis?
I think he is in a remote, probably a very nice remote place. You know, I think he's in some castle somewhere. Like, I think the year that guy has had, I'm looking back on it, it's fucking bananas how that U.S. Open played out. Like, Rory McIlroy, this titanic, but also kind of a tragic figure the last couple of years, right? Like, with how it went with Liv, and then you got the divorce thing, and then a guy blows a major in the most flagrant fashion, at least since Mito Pereira, and it's Rory. It's just, can't believe that happened.
Every person I talk to about it says too, like, I'm heartbroken for Rory. I mean, I don't know how you're not. Do you think he's watched the putts at all? Like, do you think he's even looked at footage of the putts?
I can't imagine that he has. Dude, I was rewatching the putt, the last one recently, and he tries with his body English. Do you know what I'm talking about? He tries to get it in,
you could tell,
and he
right
starts like standing up. Oh man, I'm getting shivers just thinking about it.
I still don't think he hit a bad putt. I think it just broke more than he thought. I really do.
Rom was pissed at Smiley Kaufman for making it sound like. Did you see that? Like, it was a left center putt.
Look, that's part of the deal. Like, that's when you're, you know, like, we've done the live broadcasting. You're supposed to like say what you can, and he's like trying to give the viewer what to expect here, and it clearly wasn't. And then it was Max Homa, right, who came on, like, I think he said something within a few days and was like, I actually practiced that exact putt in a practice round. And it's a weird one because if you start it even more left of the hole than Rory did, it doesn't really break until later. And if you start it where Rory did, it can snap off. And that's kind of what Rory's did. Yeah, man. It is hard.
I just feel like he's gonna, like, when you have trouble finishing off like that, like, a golf tournament has to feel so long and so hard to win because it takes so much work to get to where he was on Sunday at Pinehurst. And then if he gets in that position again, you know, it's going to cross his mind.
It's going to cross his mind. And it's, you know, I felt this really hard with like the Oilers and Connor McDavid, where it was like, I'm watching and you can feel right after the buzzer, this horrific reality settle in of like, it's going to be at least a year until we have this chance again. And that's if everything goes right. Like they won a game 7. They were red hot at the right time. Skinner, their goalie, got hot at the right time. They were able to barely get through a couple really, really, really good teams. They had the game 6 against Dallas where they got totally outplayed, but McDavid came through and was the difference. And like all of those things would have to go right for them to even have that chance again. And that would be in a year. And so I was sitting there watching that with Rory, and it's like it brought me back to the Open at St. Andrews when he didn't get the job done there, because if you remember that's obviously the last major of the year, and the second that his chip didn't go in on the 72nd hole to tie, it was like, dude, at best case we've got 9 months until he can try this again at the Masters. And you're like, that's horrible. Like, what are you gonna do now? And at least he's got this opportunity. He's got a chance at the Open Championship. But like, God, you're so right. Watching him, it's like, dude, you have to have, your game has to be on. Your preparation has to go great. You have to be in the proper wave of like Thursday, Friday. Then you got to like have a couple bounces. You got to have a couple putts lip in, which like, if you remember Sunday, like he made several bombs leading up to those missed short putts to get him even like one stroke ahead. All of that had to happen. And it's like, here we go. And then of all the things, it's so hard to hit the golf ball 350 yards dead straight, but he could do that. And it's like so hard to like get this ball. Even his second shot on the 72nd hole, it was like he mishit it. He got screwed. It was in a bush and it missed the bunker that Bryson was in and skips up to like a pretty good spot. You're like, oh, everything has to go right. Let's go. And the two things that didn't go right are like those short putts. It's like, God, dude, it is just, I know everybody's talked about it for weeks, but like, remember guest I played in last week in St. Louis? It was like, it was 5 days later and everyone was still talking about it over and over again.
And everyone, I played in one as well last week, and everyone, anytime there was like a long bunker shot, everyone's like, all right, let's see your Bryson. Like, that's his shot now.
I know, man. That US Open is going to live for a long, long, long time. What a special day that was. And it's heartbreaking. It really is. I love Bryson. We have his coach on. I think Bryson is like so good for the game. And that's the beauty of like golf, is that there's only one person that walks out of there happy out of, 156 in those big fields. It's like, it's grueling. It's heartbreaking.
Except for maybe Matthew Pavone. He's a happy guy.
He loved it. That guy's great.
He also, I think he finished, I want to say like 20th last week or something, 16th at Travelers. And he tweeted like, what an incredible week. Like, I love this so much. I hope he never gets to that point where it's like win or nothing, because he's the happiest, most pleasant French person I've ever come across.
You feel bad, like when we had him on the show last week, you feel bad asking him about Bryson and Rory, and then you realize like he was so giddy to talk about it. He was like, "Oh, dude, like when we could see Rory right there." And he's like, "Bryson came over to me after my tee shot at 17." He's like, he was talking about it like he was a kid who was holding the fucking scoring side, being like, "Oh, I got to talk to these guys while the tournament was going on." It's like, no, dude, you finished 5th in the tournament. Like he's great. I like that guy. A lot. We got to do closest to the pin there. So Bushman, I believe, is bringing it today. We're in a great spot. We got the leader, Trent, is not on the show, and Frankie's not on the show. So we have a huge opportunity here to capitalize. You always have a huge opportunity to really up the ante out of the golf course with Fireball Whiskey. They got these 50 milliliter shooters. Grab a pack, grab a bucket, toss them in your golf bag, or whenever the cart girl rolls around, make sure you stop that person and say, hey, we'd love a couple Fireball shots, that iconic cinnamon whiskey. It's just going to bring the vibes. It always does. You can chill them if you want to. A good move will pull. If they're not chilled on the beverage cart, you get them, you throw them in the little cooler next to your bag. About 2 holes later, you say, we're taking those on the tee, and you rip them out. They're just great. They make the whole day better. Fireball Whiskey presents closest to the pin, and I believe Alex Bush has the closest to the pin questions for today.
Yep. Also have an update for you as well. So last week it was the Frankie and Alex show here. We both took a few points.
I got
the first one. Yes. First one was combined goals for Oilers and Panthers. Game 6. It was 6, which was my guess. So spot on. 2 points there. Finishing position for Ludwig at Travelers. He was T27, and we all were top 10. So Frankie at 9th took that. And then combined points for the Dozen Championship Finals at 23, and Frankie took that with 24. And then the final one was high temperature in Brandel, Indonesia on Saturday. One of Trent's random places, 84 degrees. So Riggs and I split that. He had 81, I had 87.
How about
Okay.
Indonesia having like a gazillion people that live there?
Amazing amount. Is that the one with the trains? They show people shoving people onto trains there. That might be like Korea that they do that.
It sounds right. Indonesia's massive.
Yeah, it's a huge place.
Okay, so this week, first one will be Rocket Mortgage this week. Finishing position for Tom Kim.
9
Second
weeks
place
in a
last.
row this guy's playing. This is his 9th week in a row.
No way. Riggs, 6th. Dan, win, 1st. Alex, 6th.
What the fuck?
Every fucking time.
Well, you squash
How'd
me
it go?
every time.
You guys are like
Every
girls
time.
with their menstrual cycles. You know, eventually it's just all the same thing.
Yeah, it's definitely we're exactly like that.
So
We're
that's
gonna
exactly
be if
what
you
we
keep
are.
fucking squashing me like that. We're gonna.
Funny you brought up Taylor, because that is my second one. So she does surprise songs for each show, 2 different songs that have not been played, or sometimes she repeats them, but are not in the original set list. So I'm going to say this weekend, she's in Dublin, night 2. Spotify listens for the first surprise song played.
So they put the live version on Spotify.
No, I'm just saying of that song on Spotify. So if she plays whatever song she plays, the Spotify listens.
Okay, so
This is going to be a complete crapshoot. I have numbers though.
So her first the first one she plays, the first surprise song.
First surprise song, and she's been doing mashups. So if it's a mashup, it's the first song in the mashup.
You have
So-
numbers.
So are
What-
they
give
usually-
me some kind of
Yes.
context.
Yeah,
here.
are they usually
I'm about
lesser
to.
known songs? Because she plays the big ones at the tour, right?
No, she doesn't play every big one. There's some big ones that are played, but just like her top 5 trending right now, Fortnite has 438 mil, Cruel Summer has 2.2 bill, and her top trending ones are all off the new album, so they're all around 250, 200 million.
I'm drunk in the back of the car.
She's got so many bangers, dude.
That's my favorite one. I think.
Yeah.
Bush knows.
All right,
I
I think
know.
I got to guess.
I got one.
Yeah.
Too.
All right. Dan Rappaport, 373 mil. Riggs, 325. Alex, 469.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Austrian Grand Prix this weekend. We're going to do the finishing position for Lando Norris. This year, he's gone 6th, 8th, 3rd, 5th, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 2nd.
Oh, so he's driving well. Max is like
Yeah.
wins every one, right? Verstappen?
Max, yeah, he can't do that. He would just be, he wins everyone.
What happened to is Lewis Hamilton like not a factor anymore?
Not as much. Mercedes just isn't a factor.
He's
They
going
just
to
blew it
Ferrari
with
with
the
crazy
car.
because he was
They blew
so
it with
dominant.
their car, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
He hates the car. He's hated the car for years. It's kind of a nightmare.
All right, Riggs 4th, Dan 3rd, Alex 3rd. And then the last one, 15 MLB games on Saturday. We're going to do total home runs in all the games. So last Saturday, there were also 15. There were 45.
45?
All right. Dan 42, Alex 46, Riggs 39.
Beautiful.
Okay. That's closest to the pin. Last thing that's brought to you by Fireball Whiskey, which we love. They're great. They're great stuff. Phil Mickelson was tweeting about a life-changing study. And then he had quote tweeted this video of this guy, no idea who this person is, but going over this study on how basically big dermatology has been lying to us about the sun being bad for your skin. I got tagged in this a bunch as a guy with history of tweets about the sun. And I was combing through the whole thing. Essentially, the premise was like a lot of the cancerous skin issues from the sun are benign, and very, very, very few are like troubling or like fatal cancerous stuff. And that actually, then it was like, actually, the sun, if you don't get exposure to the sun, you're like significantly more likely to get cancer. You're significantly more likely to have all kinds of risk factors for other stuff. And Phil quote tweeted again and wrote, "Huge news for golfers," which made me laugh. But I was looking then at that as I've been looking through a lot of nutritional stuff lately and like dietary stuff, trying to like improve my diet. And it's very funny because when you Google basically any type of food ever, the result, because now Google gives you like the AI result is like the top one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's essentially like every food in history, they basically, with the exception of like ultra processed foods, they basically describe it as like, oh yeah, this food has plenty of good nutrients, but definitely some bad stuff. So if you have and consume it in moderation, it's great. And it says that about every food basically in history. And that essentially is exactly what I took away from this study about the sun, where it was like, oh yeah, if you get like moderate levels of exposure to the sun, you get vitamin D, which is incredibly important. Like it's going to be good for your mental health, for your physical health, for all of that. And that if you get overexposure, it could be completely devastating.
Yeah, it was kind of I couldn't believe that he messaged it that way because it would be like, oh yeah, we're good now. Like I'm just gonna go fry in the sun. Like you can every golfer. I mean, not every golfer, but a lot of the pro golfers. I mean, even Justin Thomas had an issue on his leg. Like that's not because he stayed out of the sun.
Nope, that ain't it. That is not it. It's exactly right. It's like, no, you need. So yeah, I laughed at that. I was like, you still need to protect yourself. You still protect your skin from getting like violently burned because it literally burns your cells and your skin's ability, and that leads to cancerous stuff. So I laughed at that, but I had to comment on that because I've been getting tagged on that a bunch. Other than that, I got nothing. We'll be back on next Tuesday. We've got the interview with Dana Dahlquist, who again, Bryson DeChambeau's coach. We're going to do a lot of cool golf nerdy stuff with Bryson. It's I think people are going to enjoy it with how hot in the streets he is right now. So stay tuned. Enjoy the interview. We'll be back next week on Tuesday. Hit it hard.
Hit it hard.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined. We kind of teased this. We got Dana Dahlquist, Bryson DeChambeau's swing coach. I've been going through a bunch of your stuff. You're outside of the driving range right now, which is absolutely incredible. How in demand are you right now? Over the last couple weeks, couple years, is everybody chomping at the bit for your time?
I mean, it's pretty constant. I live in a very golf centric community, so I mean, obviously we have really good teachers around here. I mean, Jamie Mulligan, Brett Lederer are pretty well known. They're up the street, and I'm just a typical range rat, so I'm at the public course over here at El Dorado, and I mean, we just do lessons all day long, and it's pretty cool because I still work with everybody, and Long Beach is kind of like this little golf centric hub, which is pretty sweet.
I used to caddy in the Long Beach Open at it was El Dorado and Skylinks.
Oh,
I never
sweet.
played, but I caddied in it a few times. How did Bryson first reach out to you? And did you have a relationship with him before that, or was it like totally out of the blue? Because he's, I know we worked with Chris Como for a while. Mike Shy was in the mix.
Yeah. So and Mike is still very much in the mix. Mike is also a father figure. We all come from pretty similar backgrounds. Like, not to get into the golf, golf machine stuff, but I have a background in that too. So it was kind of an easy thing to parlay into. But as far as how we met, I worked with Charles Howell for a long time, and Charles is one of Bryson's teammates at the Crushers. So Bryson was kind of in a position where he wanted a set of eyes and go through some concepts of what he was thinking about his golf swing. And I obviously have talked to Bryson prior to that several times, and he always came up to me with some interesting questions that were related to either the golf club or, the alignments of the golf swing or ground force reactions or any of that kind of lingo. And so when it came to the point of looking at his golf swing, that was actually 2 weeks prior to the PGA last year, and kind of got off and running and played really well. I think he finished like fourth, and then obviously 2 win legs, some equipment changes, and now here we are. So we're always trying to, kind of look outside the box a little bit. And at least in my category, I mean, he has people that specifically do his golf clubs and, golf ball and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been about a little over a year now.
Talk to me a little bit about sort of your background with, I guess I would call it more of the mechanical, biomechanical, technical side of golf, because, we've done stuff with Butch Harmon, for example, and everybody's using technology now, but I feel like he's a little bit more old school feel, and things are starting to blend more now, but there's kind of been a traditional, whatever you want to call it, more of a feel type teaching approach. And then there's been more of a technical. I'm reading a lot of this stuff about the foresight, about you guys videoing every single swing on the range and comparing what his body's doing with 3D. Talk a little bit about your background and how you take that scientific approach to the golf swing.
I'll actually answer it backwards. I think it's kind of a good way of doing it. So in the end of the day, everybody that plays in a major championship and they're top 25 on the leaderboard are a bunch of outliers. So they're very, very good at golf. They know how to play the game. They have certain expectations. So a coach's job is not to disrupt that. So that's number one. And to be honest, guys, and I'm speaking more to like the younger teachers coming out. It's my responsibility to guide them in the future, more so than, what I need to do. But, I think my younger years as a coach, it was looking for answers in the technical side. And when you answer these questions on the technical side, sometimes it takes some of the artistry out of the player or the confidence out of the player. So if we look at specifically the US Open, and this is where things are going to be going, the big question that was kind of in my mind, and I brought this to Foresight and Sportsbox attention a little bit. I said, hey, look, you have really good technology that can integrate and that can simplify the message that I need to deliver so that Bryson and my other players can go out and actually play golf instead of trying to make positions happen in a golf swing or chase certain parameters. It's like, okay, what are the one or two things that I need to do? And that's really kind of how that started. So a week prior to the US Open, Sportsbox went out and got all of his numbers. And then we had a discussion, and we're talking every shot. So every shot was calculated. Spin axis of the ball, body position, and then we kind of picked the ones that are the red flags, which were only like 2 or 3. And then we did it the week of the US Open. Boom, we saw when he hit, 86% of his fairways and drove it great. We saw the correlation to the next day, and we're off to the races. So now that being said, like if we go back in time, originally I was kind of what you would say like a Mac O'Grady disciple. So kind of in the Morad group or space, which was based off of, we could call it geometry. And I mean, you're going to get golf nerds on here, so let me cover my bases real quick. So that was more of the kinetics and the kinematics of the golf swing. So as we fast forward, that's where we started looking, probably like 6 to 8 years ago into the biomechanics space, which we're talking to golf science people. And the golf science people were looking at certain places of golf science, whether it's ground force reaction or like, Phil Cheatham, who's looking at 3D, and then how to correlate those things and how does that affect our players, and then how much does this affect like the average golfer. I deal mostly with the average golfer, so there is some crossover on some things that are useful and some things that are not. And golfers are kind of interesting. It's a very easy game to get technical at, and at the end of the day, I think the technology is making it easier. Especially in the next probably 2 to 3 years, you're going to see a lot more of like, instead of me pulling some concept off the wall and trying it, it's going to be like, no, bro, like you got to do this. This is what you have to do. And then they can practice there and not just hit 7-irons on the range all day. They can maybe work on their wedges.
Headphones, folks, huge part of life now, especially for us. We travel all over the place. You're in an Uber, you're on a plane, you're boarding, waiting for a plane, you're listening to stuff, watching stuff, trying to catch up. Maybe you're just on Zoom calls and you're doing work, whatever it is, you got to have good stuff. We're talking Techniques, which delivers legendary hi-fi sound quality Only Technique can provide state-of-the-art, industry-leading noise canceling to shut out the noise that distracts you from staying on top of your game. The AZ80 buds seamlessly connect to 3 devices simultaneously, allowing you to go from leading a meeting, listen to music, or taking a call all back to back to back, no problem. You want something over the ear, the A800 over-ear headphones, which Frankie's been wearing for a long time, are designed with super soft ear pads and a plush cushioned headband, delivering all-day comfort from the office to the fairway, keeping you in the zone. I love them because on the airplane, when you're on the plane, planes are loud. Planes are just incredibly loud. That's a fact. Whatever you're listening to or watching, it can be very distracting, just because you got so much noise going on. And the captain, God bless him, great skill set. But sometimes their communication and when to communicate and how loud they can be, just could be an absolute nightmare out there. The noise canceling on these things are phenomenal. Shop for Technique's true wireless AZ80 earbuds or the A800 over-ear headphones at us.techniques.com/foreplay. That is us.technics.com/foreplay. One word, us.techniques.com/foreplay. These things are great. Trust me, they're high quality. Go check them out.
So the equipment, it's been a big topic of conversation since the Masters. Can you explain it to us? Because when he explains it, it's, I get it. It's like it's shaped more like the irons kind of have a bulge, sort of more of a gear effect that you'd expect to see with a driver or fairway woods. Walk us through just how different it is, and do you think it is something that will spread?
Okay, so first and foremost, Bryson has a lot of club head speed. So being as such, his ball speed is really, really high. And so in the marketplace, all that demographic is very small. So as far as like testing, equipment and things like that, it's a niche thing. Let's just be fair. Like there's not a lot of guys that are hitting a ball at 190 ball speed plus. And when they do that, there's things start to change. And one of those things is curvature. So on a centered hit, which, let's hope that you can do every single time, but the reality is it's not happening. And for your weekend warriors and guys who like to have a good time, they're probably not doing that. So if you look at it from the standpoint of club head speed, and we go from 190 all the way down to, let's say, 150, ball speed, excuse me, in that, trend, that means that you're going to be hitting it on the toe and the heel, and you need to have the right bulge and roll to bring the ball back. So at a high speed, when Bryson would hit a normal driver off the toe, the curvature was too much. And when he started experimenting with the bulge and roll, specifically on the driver, originally, when he would increase it or decrease it, he could see the fluctuation and how that curvature was. And, Bryson actually practices hitting it on different parts of the face, because that allows him to control the ball better. It's not just hit the center. He wants to try it off the toe, try it off the heel. I think what's interesting is the industry, needs to have, not to get on my high horse here, but it needs to have a little bit out of the box thinking, to change the industry. And I mean, you couldn't ask for a better guy to do that, because he's going to experiment. He's going to try things and put it in the high level competition. And we just saw, him win a major championship with the new technology. So
what would be the equipment companies, what would be their rebuttal? Because like, I would think that they would say like, what do you mean? Like we've been testing with high speeds. Like how have they not, with all the tour players they have, how have they not tested at these speeds?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is when you do like robot testing, it's probably, and I don't know the exact number, but it's around 170 ball speed. So like you're not seeing it at 200. And so what happens is they kind of have a formula that they use, and then they use technology around that, such as maybe like twist face, which works. So that technology does work, but it's kind of like the next phase of twist face. So the next phase of twist face is going to be the bulge on the face. And then we're going to have to the industry is going to have to go, okay, well, at those high speed players, what is the optimal bulge and roll? And also on the flip side, the low speed. So if you see players that swing really slow, under 150, maybe it's 145. What is that average going to be, and what's the bulge going to have to be for you to get optimal launch and spin? So the big thing is also the spin from the top to the bottom too. So the top of face to the bottom at 190, you can just imagine, this is why Bryson uses like stronger lofted clubs. He looks at it just from the spin rate capability. Like his pitching wedge is going to spin at pitching wedge spin, even if the loft is down. So it's the same thing kind of, instead of me hitting my Mizunos or my pings or whatever, they just be stronger lofted.
Interesting. So how much would you say then, a question I have about Bryson is how much of his success is just, he's also a naturally born, incredibly gifted and talented golfer. Because I'm out there watching him and he's doing all this scientific stuff. And when you're watching it, and you're kind of thinking like, oh, of course, if he's done so much study, knows exactly that if he's got this form and these fundamentals down, and he swings this way with this equipment, that like the result's going to pretty much be in this kind of dispersion cone. Where I'm out there watching him and do this stuff on the range, and he's doing a great job. He's talking all about, when he's trying to breathe out, he's trying to strike the ball as he like breathes out, all this stuff. But I'm also like, he's also just flushing the ball every single time, and he understands how to get his way around a golf course. He's won at every level.
Putting is awesome.
He's a phenomenal putter, which is, I know he works on how far to bring the putter back, but also like just stepping up and making a 4-footer to win the U.S. Open, as we saw, is like not just that easy. So, how much of it is also just like, man, this guy's a really naturally gifted, incredible athlete, golfer.
Yeah, well, you develop the athlete young. I mean, that's kind of the thing that we don't really get to see. So all of these guys that are on tour have practiced appropriately. Okay, they practice golf, so they practice hitting balls around trees and hitting at targets, and it's not just the swing mechanics. I mean, I think to the parents out there maybe watching or wanting to listen, if you want to develop golfer, you develop golf. So, and a lot of the things that the mistakes maybe I made along the way trying to make a swing look a certain way still didn't produce an outcome. So that's kind of just a complementary thing. But for Bryson, we didn't see the 3,000 balls that he hit in a few days when he was, 15 years old, trying to perfect making perfect contact. Let's just look at that line item for a minute. And then that becomes part of his self. And then him being able to start the ball on the line every single time. And then him being able to curve it a certain way every single time. And then him being able to carry it a certain distance every time. So like all these guys that are on tour have some level of that. And the piece that helps him now is knowing that he can simplify that down and, show up to a golf tournament, feel like he's the best player there, which he does, and then be able to execute his actionable plan. I think the other side of this, and I mean, I tell this to every one of my players, is that don't allow other players to have the throne. I know you guys interview a lot of players and coaches, and it's interesting because like right now, everybody's elected Scottie Scheffler, and I like Scottie, and he's a great human being, and Randy and they're great guys. They have a nice team, but I wouldn't allow any of my students to elect Scottie to be like he's the guy. Like it's just not really allowed.
What do you mean by that?
Well, so we in golf, we elected Tiger Woods, right? And he verbally would say it to everybody, like the famous Curtis Strange interview where, you think you can win, and right, like that, yeah, you'll learn. So, but like that was built into him at a young age. And what's interesting is that Tiger rose to that occasion and was able to drop the hammer on everybody. And like right now, that's the same with Scottie Scheffler. So Scottie's team and people around him built that in. And then when he was able to win, it perpetuated on itself. And so now it's, he's here, and then, people around him are elevating him, and including, the media does it. The media elects it, and it perpetuates on itself. So, at least with my students and even, college players, it's the responsibility is like, hey, I'm the best person at this golf course. I'm the best person in my college. I'm the best person in this town, and so on and so forth. And if you speak it into existence, like if your mindset is there first, the skill set follows. And that's a really important factor. And in Bryson's case, like, he has that. You know, he feels like when he shows up to the golf course, he's the guy to beat. And obviously his track record the last several, you know, like the last decade has kind of shown that. And that's an important thing. I think it's, we want to see, you know, the other part of it is like, I had one of actually the CEO of Sports Box. I was in the airport because I had to get back to California. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the final. You know, he was in the bunker, and it's like, oh my gosh, in the bunker. I'm like, yeah, he's fine. He's a great bunker player. Like, it's kind of like, watch what he can do. I had full faith he's going to hit it good. Like, I didn't have any stress on that, and let alone when he hit it, then he made the putt. I'm like, yeah, I expect him to do that.
It is a very interesting mindset difference. And, you know, just to like relate it to myself, of like, we basically are personification on the internet of the weekend warrior, right? And sure, like we get to reach a point, we get to play golf a lot on camera for a living, but we still are at our core like weekend warriors. Picked up the game, at least myself, like a little bit later in life, never ingrained that stuff as a kid. And my mindset is constantly like, oh, fuck. Like, here I am now. I'm on camera. I'm in this moment. I know I can be bad at this a lot. Please, God, let this be one of those moments where I'm pretty good at it, versus the things I've been good at in my life. Whenever you do get the biggest stage, you do have this ingrained mindset of like, oh, hell yeah, I get to show off now. All the practice, all the execution, all the skill that I believe that I have in this realm, whatever it is, whether it's interviewing, whether it's hockey, whether it's art, like whatever the hell it is, like there's an opportunity to show off. And it's very funny that you say that, because I do think whether it's like Rory swinging a driver at times, or whether, you know, it's Scottie now with his iron player, whether it's Bryson in the bunker, like you're saying, being like, oh, hell yeah, here I am. We've been talking about the crowds all week, this giant theater on 18, and I get to hit this shot. Wait till these people see what I can do. How much difference like that makes.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like, here's the reality. If Bryson tees up in a major championship over the next 5 years, he's going to be the guy to beat. And we can pick certain guys. I mean, Brooks Koepka has that too, right? You look at Brooks the last few years, that's what we expect out of him. And yeah, I mean, you can see it on players at tournaments. Like, observationally, I've been out there since 2006. Over the year, you start seeing that. You're like, okay, well, that guy has it. Like, not even talking his body language, like how his persona is. And obviously, like, we look back at Tiger Woods, we talked about it, we saw it, and it perpetuated. So you expected the guy to win by 12. So that's just where my brain goes when I go to tournaments. It's not anymore of like, oh yeah, like I need to fix his golf swing. It's not that. I just look at how the mode they're in and how their body language is and how their team's operating.
That's really interesting to me, because you think of Bryson as the exact opposite of that. Like, you think of him as a guy who's like always like as part of your process with working with him, trying to ingrain that in him, because I can't imagine him walking down and being like, oh, it's just about body language. You'd think that he'd want to know everything about everyone's golf swing. Is he kind of matured in that way of where it's like, you know, I understand the mechanics, or everyone mechanics out here is going to be good. Maybe the difference might be just what's going on between the ears.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I saw it at Augusta. Like, I saw it when he walked on the range at Augusta. Like, 100% when he walked in, I'm like, okay, he's good. Like, in all honesty, like, I can tell. I saw it at the PGA. Like, we're on the putting green, and it was just a little fine tuning of a few things. So, but in all honesty, like, where he is right now, even away from majors, just how he's talking, he's holding a mantle that he feels comfortable with the responsibility. That's the big part. Like, the responsibility of him being the champion, and like he's in that position. Obviously, he's done it before, but now he's very comfortable. Like, it's kind of scary, to be honest. Like, how he talks and how he's. I mean, I'm not used to it, because it's not like I have a guy who wins a major every year. But just observationally, I think at my age, I kind of can come to terms with that. But I can see it 100%.
We had a conversation at Valhalla, you and I, and you said if he could hit a cut, if he was comfortable hitting a cut, he would win every single tournament.
Yeah.
Why is he so insistent on the draws, and is the cut coming?
Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of like if you look at players, okay, now, and this is just anecdotal. Like, this isn't like, oh, exactly, he's going to do this. But like, if you looked at players who hit it one way, which I prefer, quite frankly, like for Bryson, 99.9% of the time to hit that shot, like that, just hit his draw and play it. But once in a while, there's a situation where you might want to hold a ball that falls to the right to a pin, and when it matters. Now, here's what's funny is when he's on the range, no problem, he can hit that shot. I watched him do it at the U.S. Open, like he did it with a driver. Started a little left and cut back. So he has the shot. Now, relative to will he do it in competition, I haven't really seen it. And can you? And this is the other side of it. It's all about commitment. Like, you have to commit to a shot, and they commit to what they know they can do every single time. So that's why most players hit it one way all the time. I know it's elegant to say that Tiger has 9 shot windows or 36 shot windows or 49, whatever. But in reality, he hits one thing every single time, and maybe hits a 1 out of 50 times. So, yeah.
How difficult is it for you to sort of measure what is going on in competition under pressure versus the range? Because I think that's one of the most relatable things in the world of golf, is that a lot of people can get to a spot where they're very comfortable with a shot, with contact, with multiple shots, whatever it might be. And then you get out there, you're on a tee, you're in a big match, you're on camera, you're just playing a game with your buddies in the weekend, it's the member guest, whatever it might be. On the pro level, you're in the US Open, and all of a sudden everything changes. Your body feels different, your limbs feel different. How do you try to measure that and then, work backwards from that to improve it, in a practice type sphere?
Yeah. So if I was the blanket statement, I would see it in the process. So I wouldn't see it. The outcome is going to be a poor swing. But if the process is, if you're on the range and you hit it good, and you have your foresight there and the ball's doing what it's supposed to do, and you film it on Sports Box, which we do, everything looks fine, and they go play, and then they hit a bad shot. Generally speaking, it's indecision or it's process related. So, was the routine improper? Were they in between clubs? Like, there's a lot of little outlying things that happen when you play golf, which should happen. That's the artistry of the game. But, it's like maybe the pin's in a location, I'm trying to get to it. Now I'm not confident. My confidence goes from 100 to like 60. Or was my buddy chirping in my ear? Like, whatever it is. Like, so I always look at things from the process standpoint. Is the player changing the process when they're playing? Are they indecisive on shot selection? And, in major championships, you start seeing that. You start seeing some players speed up. You start seeing guys maybe over practice. I think that's like the over grind. I see that sometimes at the PGA. I have some friends that are PGA members, and then they qualify, and it's like they showed up on Wednesday before the tournament, played 18 every day. I'm like, dude, you're going to be spent. So, so that's where I hang my hat. And who knows, like, I've always been the guy who's along the journey to learn, like, just as much as anybody. So I don't have all these answers, but, I get the answers from being in the experience. So being in the experience is giving me better answers for the future. So, at this time, I would say the guiding light thing is watching people's process and how they handle it.
You've been out there for almost 20 years. You said 2006. You've coached a bunch of players. How much better is Bryson than the average tour pro, and what is the ceiling for him? Like, how good? I know he's 30 years old, so he's right in the middle of his prime. How good can he be?
Yeah, he like I said, I think from a technical aspect, he's already there, and he's there might be some envelopes that he pushes, but I think the big thing is that he will prioritize the bigger events and being able to handle it. And I mean, he is an outlier. Well, I'm going to be fair. And yeah, I mean, he's a special player for sure. But also on the other flip side of that, I think he's outside of just the tournament piece, he's very comfortable about holding the other mantle, which is like being an ambassador for the game, which is kind of like an Arnold Palmer feel, which is also huge. So, and I think it's good for golf. Like at the end of the day, you know, especially being here in Long Beach and having a lot of kids that play golf, I care about them, you know, and I like, yeah, okay, I care about the tour players, but I care about what happens for their game and their future. And so it's really like nice to see somebody like step up and actually grow the game of golf, bring more people to the game. It's something that's really, really a big responsibility, and somebody who's able to do it, you know, check all the right boxes is fun to watch. So I think that's the next thing for Bryson is like growing that aspect more so than what he has. Pretty outstanding, to be fair. Is really cool. Really cool.
Has Bryson ever asked you a question that you couldn't answer?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's
Give us an example.
Well, so when it gets anything that's into the club space, which is like, you know, club design, anything of that nature, that's not my forte. It's more golf swing stuff. And, so I've learned a lot along the way so far. Jeff from Crank Golf, who's, you know, the driver, learning that relationship and talking with him, and then LA Golf, like that relationship, learning from them. And so, like I said, like I'm not here to be omnipotent and have all the answers. That's not my job. My job is to ask good questions at the right time, and then be as forthright as I can with what at least I know about the golf. So, but yeah, I think when it gets into the club space, that's a little dicey for me at times. But he's asking questions that other people have never asked, to be fair.
With all the, you know, when you're teaching, you know, I know, like you said, a lot of local golfers, a lot of just your average weekend warriors. Are you using technology to the, you know, even close to the degree that you're using it for Bryson?
I will say this. So people show up, they take a lesson, they're filmed, maybe they're on radar, not all the time, but most of the time. And then because I use a program that shows angles, tilts, rotations, all that kind of stuff, it's a very quick way to have them leave with better information. So in the past, when you just filmed, or if you didn't film and you told them what to do, it's very subjective. Like, you know, like, do I have enough left bend? Do I have, you know, enough rotation to the right, or whatever it is? There's not a good feedback loop. So like on my end, yeah, I mean, it makes a golf swing that's done in my brain in 5 seconds because I've seen them hit it. I know what they need to work on, but that's not important. What I know, like, it doesn't matter. They're not here for that. They're here to fix it. They at least get an idea of what's wrong. They get a implementation plan of how to fix it. And then I tell them, okay, you need to do this, this, and this over this time span. And then they're good. That's the big part. And then if it ever gets into any mental hurdles, sometimes a lot of unwinding of like past experience that needs to happen, you know, because they might have taken other lessons, or they have some identity of a golfer who they are, and that needs to be addressed.
Makes sense. Last thing I got for you, Bryson on Sunday at the US Open, obviously plays great, gets the W. Didn't drive it particularly well for him. Didn't drive it as straight, you know, as he's been throughout the year. How quickly after the entire thing ended did he go to you with that? Because I have a feeling that that registered in his brain and he wanted to talk about that.
I actually did. Wow. So he did a driver head switch. So
on the range before, I was watching it.
Yeah. So when that happened,
I know.
Yeah. So like when that happened, and I'm guessing because we really haven't talked about it. So the spin rate probably changed. It probably dropped a little bit. It was harder to draw. So he was able to start it right, but it didn't curve back enough. And so he just was like, all right, I'm just going to play golf. So, and like I said, I wasn't that worried because he's that good. And so, yeah, the ball just wasn't gearing the way that it was the prior day. So, which is great. So it's a good test. Like, hey, he can win a major switching a driver right before he.
That's insane to go out there and just play knowing that, like, oh yeah, this one isn't doing what I would like it to do, but I'm just going to go figure it out. That's like,
Yeah.
that's just so anti what people would think about Bryson, right? Like being
Yeah.
everything controlled and the scientists and the whole deal. And it's like, no, just go be an artist and make it work.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually a good thing. I don't look at it as a bad thing because now he has that much more of an edge on who he's going to play against at the British. So I guess I'm an optimist, but you know,
a lot of confidence coming from the Bryson camp, which is understandable.
yeah.
By the way, he's having a record major
Yeah.
championship year. I mean, top T6 at the Masters, second at the PGA, wins the US Open. That's about as good as we've seen in a long time.
Speaking of the Open, it's given him some. I know he had he had a good finish a couple years ago. He hasn't played that as well as he's played the U.S. Space Majors. You guys working on anything? Lower ball or are you just because for him with all that wind, that's so many variables, to input.
Yeah, I think like the big variable is going to be temperature and wind. So we're going to kind of find out maybe the week before because he's got other events going into it. But I think what's interesting is, once again, the narrative piece is going to be in front of like what do you have to do? Because in reality, like he's good enough to win that tournament, hands down. So he doesn't have necessarily a spin issue. So I think it's like maybe adjust the game plan to fit the golf course a little bit. Don't try to make the golf course fit your game. Like that's what it comes down to. I mean, that's a Tommy Armourism for Tommy. But yeah, you have to make your game fit the course. So whether that's hitting different clubs off, tees, playing a certain approach shots a certain way, so be it. But yeah, I think with a level of confidence and everything that he's been doing up until this point, having better control over things, he's going to be at a good spot calling it.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that because I remember he got asked in the presser after he won at Pinehurst, how did you change your preparation? Because Pinehurst is different than any tests you guys have kind of seen this year. And he said, I didn't. He was like, I know I'm hitting the ball. I know if I just hit the ball farther, straighter, I have a higher, trajectory, and my putting's great. I'm going to win. And so he was basically just like, yeah, I didn't change it.
Yeah. Your formula as a golfer, I think that's the interesting thing is we look at guys who have won major championships, the Jack Nicklaus's, Arnold Palmer's, Tiger Woods. I mean, they all hit it far. They hit it high. I mean, you look at Greg Norman when he, won the British Open, and Tom Watson, they hit it far, they hit it high. So I think
right.
like the adaptation is just kind of solely like picking the right clubs and plotting the course accordingly. If you putt well, you win. You drop the hammer. So, I mean, I'm excited for that. I think, I think it might be a very fun week.
Well, man, I gotta agree with you on a ton of fronts. It's just been Bryson, even a couple of years ago when he wasn't as popular now, then as he is now, he's still making headlines every week. I think that's so good for golf. And now he has seemed, and it's been talked about everywhere, he seemed to really come into himself. It seems like Liv has been better for him than it's been for anybody else. He's really confident in who he is, in his golf game. And obviously you're a huge part of the golf game side. And it sounds like even more than that. So you got to be on a hell of a stretch. I love that you're out there at the public course giving lessons in the golf cart. It's just a very cool vibe you guys got right now.
Yeah, we try. I mean, I'm just a little piece, to be honest. Like I'm very lucky to be working with not only a good player, but be around a good team. That's one thing that's very interesting is that Bryson's done a very good job of putting the right people around him. So like his manager, his agent, having an unbelievable caddy. I mean, you couldn't, like Greg is integral. Like his presence is really nice to be around. It's actually a little bit infectious. Sorry, Greg, blows smoke, but I'm really not. And so even like
he's like the anti-Bryson. He's like the most calm. He's like a human.
Yeah.
I think I saw someone describe him as a human Xanax.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, 100%. And so him having a great team. And then also what's interesting is even on the fitness side, it's very, very intricate. So like I know he works with Greg, but also, kind of a partner is Ryan was out there. And like, so every step of the way, like everything is calculated properly. And what's also really neat is, we all have his best interests. He's the CEO of his golf game. We all have his best interests at hand. So, but I'm just a small piece of that puzzle.
Well, like I said, it's great. It's great to watch. It's been great to witness. I think Bryson is phenomenal for golf right now and has been for years. He's transcending the game. You can kind of tell. A lot of the other sports are picking it up. The ratings were insane for the U.S. Open finish. Even him delivering at the end at Valhalla, he was right there and, hitting bombs and making putts and celebrating. So it's been very fun to watch. And obviously you have a lot of confidence in the kind of belief that this is just the start. So hopefully we got a lot more fun stuff to watch.
Yeah. I just hope everybody sets their iPhone clock to wake up early to watch the British this year. So that's the goal. Right?
Full overflowing with confidence. I love it.
Yeah. No, I like that too. I like that too. We always forget. We get hyped up for the British, and then it's like, oh, you got to wake up at 2 a.m. to watch it. You're like, oh, shit.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Why go to bed? Why go to bed?
Are you going to the British?
I'll be there. But I just ask people find a good pub and just don't go to bed. Just stay up. Why are you going to bed?
I tried that. I remember trying that for the Ryder Cup and then woke up and then it was just commercial after commercial. Remember the first hour or two of the Ryder Cup coverage was just horrible. And you're like, dude, I'm up at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. or whatever it is. And all I'm doing is watching commercials. It was kind of a nightmare, but I might stay up. I might go to sleep. We'll see. Either way, we appreciate the time. I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a lot of work to do, a lot of swings to fix out there and help out. So keep up the good work and good luck with Bryson going forward.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate it.